Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, to another special broadcast of a DFS JAGS live fantasy football stream. This is the second one we're doing. Once again, today I'm going to be joined with my co-host, Mr. Chris Caldwell. How you doing, Chris?
Doing awesome, Rick. How are you, man?
Good. Ready to talk some football today?
Couldn't be more ready. Thanks for inviting me back again. We got to get these people ready for their drafts.
Yeah, of course. Today we got a pretty cool concept that we kind of came up with. We're calling it Fantasy Phone a Friend. Basically, what we're going to be doing today on today's show is we're going to be naming some players that me and Chris are both kind of stuck on whether or not we want to draft them or not draft them in our fantasy drafts this year. And we haven't discussed any of our players that we're going to bring up. I got 5 players listed. Chris has 5 players listed. We're going completely blind on this. So basically what we're going to do is I'm going to name a player that I'm stuck on. Chris is going to give me a buy argument, a sell argument, and I'm going to kind of, see which side I like more and kind of make a decision on what I'm going to go with on a draft. So I'm going to give Chris some credit here for coming up with this concept. It seems pretty cool. Just for some, guys that we just don't know what we want to do with in fantasy drafts. So basically, that's what the concept of the show today. If you are in the live chat on YouTube and you want us to discuss any players at the end of the show, just leave their name in the live chat, and our producer will bring it up the names to us, and we'll go over them. So, Chris, any before we get into all this, any news topics about NFL that you've been interested in since we did our last podcast? Anything pop up for you or anything like that?
No, man, I'm just refreshing Twitter constantly, looking for training camp news and, see who makes a highlight reel catch. I don't know if any of that matters, but it's fun to follow, and I'm excited for some football tomorrow. I think there's 2 Thursday night football games, so we'll start seeing some of these roster bubble people, try to show out and make some teams. So looking forward to that.
Did you catch any of the Hall of Fame game last week?
Man, that was I was interested to see Najee Harris. He looked all right, but after that, I think I watched Diontae Johnson catch a pass, Najee Harris, and then it was just straight scrubs. So
it was pretty lame there. Yeah, of course. That's usually how the Hall of Fame game is. It's like the first preseason game of the year. No one's really playing. None of the starters are playing. Well, Harris got a couple carries, but yeah. Before we get into our players that we're going to be talking about, if you like the content that we put out, please like, subscribe, leave us a comment. If you have any questions, reach out to us on Twitter. Riku, I'm at Riku Mukherjee. Chris, what's your Twitter handle?
At C Caldwell 45.
All right, cool. So, you want to get into it?
Yeah, man. So this concept, what I'm thinking is you give me a player and I'm going to give my best 1-minute sell. Like, I need you to want to draft that person. And then as soon as I'm done that, I'm going to give my very best 1 minute why you should never even dream of drafting this person. And again, I have no idea who you're going to say, and you have no idea who I'm going to say. So this is going to be pretty interesting. I'm going to see how many times we get tongue-tied over here.
Yeah, I mean, the list of players I got are pretty well-known guys. Obviously, we're not going to be talking about like the third string tight end on like the Carolina Panthers or anything like that. We're going to talk about like actual draftable guys that we're pretty stuck on. And we made sure we talked to our producer that we didn't have any overlapping guys. So we have 10 different guys that we're going to talk about, and let's get into it. So my first guy that I just really am stuck on because he's going in the first round this year. I'm not too sure if I want to draft him in the first round, but coming in average ADP right now of 8 at RB8 is Jonathon Taylor. That's my guy, first guy that I'm stuck on.
Okay, so Jonathon Taylor, one of my personal favorite talents in the NFL. As a pure runner, you have to love him. He has the size at over 6 foot. He has the weight at 220, 225 pounds. He has the speed with the sub 4.40. He has everything you need. He has one of the best offensive lines in the league. He has a head coach that likes to run the ball. He's on a team that doesn't have a great quarterback, so they're going to have to run the ball. And, behind that offensive line, you have to lean on him. And there was some talk that they were going to be missing a lineman or two for the season. Saw today that's not really the case. Line's going to be fully healthy when the season starts. I think there's a case that Taylor's underpriced at 8. So I'm going with Taylor. I think he's in the conversation up at pick number 5 with Ezekiel Elliott. He even caught some passes last year, earlier in the year. I don't think you should shy away from him at all, especially at that price tag. Carson Wentz will be back. He's not going to be out that full 3 months. That offense is going to be well balanced. It's going to be clicking. And he showed out last year. He had 220 fantasy points last year. It can only go up from there. The guy's a stud. Don't ever think it.
All right, that's a pretty good buy argument. Now sell me on him.
Okay, you should never ever draft Jonathon Taylor. Number one, we're not even positive he's the starting running back. Marlon Mack missed the whole last year because he tore his Achilles. He is the veteran of the bunch, and Frank Wright is an old school coach. Marlon Mack's coming back this year. I don't be surprised if Marlon Mack gets the first couple carries out of game 1 just for principle. Jonathon Taylor is a more talented back, but Frank Wright's old school. And then you have Nyheim Hines, pass catching extraordinaire. Jonathon Taylor is going to get 0 work on third downs. Okay. Other than that, if Carson Wentz, the guy's brittle as can be, if they have I forget their backup quarterback, Jacob Eason is their quarterback, they're going to be putting 8-9 in the box. Jonathon Taylor's going to have no room to run. So you're essentially having a 2-down back with a stacked box. Just forget about it. I mean, he's in a three-person committee, Taylor, Mack, Hines. It's just they're not having no scoring chances with Eason at quarterback. Carson Wentz, totally most overrated quarterback of the last 5 years. I just don't see why you would want a running back on a low-scoring offense. It's just with a banged up offensive line and no quarterback. It's just complete sell for me.
All right. Yeah, I mean, for Colts fans, they got some good news. I think it came out today or earlier yesterday or something like that. That looks like Carson Wentz and Quentin Nelson, who's an all-pro guard for them, is going to be ready to go week 1, most likely. But I personally kind of like your sell argument a little bit more. I mean, Nyheim Hines is there. He got a lot of work last year. He was like the number 1 waiver wire pickup after week 1. I think he had like 2 touchdowns or something. But yeah, just you're right in the sense that I think I'm leaning more towards sell with Jonathon Taylor just because of how shitty I think Carson Wentz is, or how shitty I think their quarterback play is going to be, that they're going to be defenses are going to be able to stack the box on them. But yeah, you're right. There is no doubt, about his physical presence, his talent, and all that stuff. He was an incredible runner in college. We all know that. So yeah, I see both sides of the argument there. Coming in at, an ADP of 8 there. You have the choice of, Aaron Jones or Nick Chubb. If you have those guys on the board, probably leaning more towards them over Jonathon Taylor for me personally. So I think for me, after those 2 arguments, I'm probably going to be more of a sell.
Yeah, I can't argue with you. My question is, okay, Marlon Mack is back. They'll probably ease him in coming off the Achilles. What's the smallest number of carries you could ever see a running back, with his history? He's been very solid. Even if they don't want to lean on him, he's still getting 75, 100 carries this year. Yeah, so what is Mack? I mean, what is Taylor left with? Once you have Hines in on third down and Mack's going to get his because he's the veteran.
Do you think Jonathon Taylor is going to get 200 plus carries this year? Like, do you think that's a feasible number? Except if there's injury or whatever. But if he's healthy for 17 games, you're seeing between 200, 250 carries.
I like that you mentioned him because I think that the talent's incredible. The opportunity is questionable, right? So, yeah. But he is that guy where you give him 15 carries. If you tell me he gets 15 carries and 1.5 catches a game, I still want him at that ADP because he's a home run hitter. He has the speed and the tackle breaking ability. He only needs 15 carries to pay off there.
If you are drafting him, or if you are in that, let's say 8 slot or whatever, are you taking any wide receivers or Travis Kelce ahead of Jonathon Taylor?
We'll get into this a little more later. I'm not a tight end first round guy.
Okay.
I'm probably considering Tyreek and Adams over Taylor, but Taylor's
It's
I have him higher than RB8.
it's probably splitting hairs, like right there. It's just whoever you feel more like, whatever strategy you're going more comfortable with in your draft. So, all right, that was my first guy. Let's do your first guy now. Who you got?
Okay, I wanted to start it off with the most important position on the football field, and this is a guy when it's my turn to draft and I need a quarterback. I don't have a quarterback yet, and his name is at the top of the list of best available or second or third. I just glaze over it. I don't know what to do. I I think I want to draft him, but I also am pissing my pants because I have no idea what to expect. Tell me what I should do with Jalen Hurts.
Oh man, Jalen Hurts. He was a fantasy darling last year. Like when he took over in that offense. So for the buy for Jalen Hurts, I definitely think his rushing upside is like up there. It's like it's not Lamar level, but like he definitely is going to be running the ball a lot. And I'm not so the one thing that I'm not too sure about Jalen Hurts is that what their head coach is going to bring to their new head coach is going to bring to their office. We saw with Doug Peterson last year that they kind of developed like the same sort of offense that the Ravens kind of run with Lamar, and doing like a read option kind of offense with him. Now, if he has that rushing floor, and if he's going to be there, like, getting like rushing the ball like 10, maybe even 15 times a game, for fantasy, that is really, really good. Now, he we saw him chuck the ball down the field a lot last year. He hit some passes, he missed some passes. I think if you want to take the upside with him as a buy, I definitely agree with drafting him. I think he is a very high upside guy because he can get some fantasy stats. He has a new toy in Devontae Smith. He has Jalen Reagor from last year. So if this new coordinator, a new offensive scheme that they're going to um, implement in Philly suits him, which is what kind of like what the Ravens did with Lamar. If they can figure that out and figure out how to utilize his strengths to the best, I think is an absolute buy. For a sell, well, you have glasses. So I'm gonna flip my hat around for a sell with Jalen Hurts. All right, so this guy, I mean, I don't think he can throw the ball that well. So
So
I just don't think.
he's Tim Tebow. Are you saying he's Tim Tebow esque?
Yeah, I think he's like Tim Tebow S. I think even if you put some weapons around him, like Devontae Smith, who's the Heisman Trophy winner, even if you have Jalen Reagor from last year, put Miles Sanders in the backfield with him. I just don't think like his ability to be accurately passing the ball down the field is that great. Now, one thing that I personally think with Philly is that they do play in a weak division. They don't, they don't play the toughest schedule. So are they going to be more of a team that is going to be ahead in games and just trying to run the ball down your throat? Possibly. Or are they going to be behind in games? That I'm not really 100% sure on, because if you think that they're going to be behind in games, then I think, they're going to try to play catch up by throwing the ball. I think that could be disaster for Jalen Hurts, because being a second year player, even though he didn't play a full season last year, being a second year player, he's going to throw some picks. He's going to, not be too accurate with the ball. So if you feel like the new offensive scheme that they're going to put in there, and one full off season of knowing that he's going to be the starting quarterback, is the way to develop him. We saw it in college at Alabama, at Oklahoma. He was in these offenses where they did put the ball in his hands, and he was able to light up college defenses. We saw it. We saw it in the NFL last year. Me personally, I kind of like playing Jalen Hurts on DraftKings, like as like a week to week player. But he could always boom and like rush for 2 touchdowns, rush for 3 touchdowns. But as a season long play, I just can't. I just don't know if I can get there with him.
So I have a theory on this. So Jalen Hurts is ranked whereabouts of QB 10.
Yeah,
Can we agree that Jalen Hurts is probably not going to finish the year as QB 10? He's going to finish the year at like QB 4 or 5 or QB 24.
he
Like
does.
he has
I
that
think
boom bust appeal.
Yeah, I think he does have those range of outcomes. I think you're absolutely right there. And then on top of that, there is an injury risk, obviously, with him potentially, running the ball a lot. But would I take him over the likes of Justin Herbert or Aaron Rodgers or all these guys? Probably not. But if you have a decision there between Jalen Hurts and like someone like Ryan Tannehill or Matthew Stafford or something like that, that's kind of a tough decision to make, whether or not
Yes.
you want to do that or not.
So that's the range. So, okay, let's assume Herbert and Rodgers are gone, and
Yeah.
then it's your turn, and it's Hurts, Burrow, or Tannehill. Where are you going?
I'm just biased towards Joe Burrow this year. I think he's going to come back with a vengeance. But I think it's Joe. I think out of those three, I power rank it's Burrow, Tannehill, then Hurts for me. Out of those three guys.
Okay, so Hurts is the last place out of the three. Okay.
Yeah, out of those three guys. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think I was on the fence, but I think you convinced me for him to be a sell. My big choice this year is it seems like I'm having to choose between Hurts and Tannehill, and I think I need to give Tannehill a click up and Hurts a click down. Tannehill was QB8 last year, and now he added Julio Jones. So I think it's a safer play. Maybe not the ceiling that Hurts has if everything clicks, but I think with your quarterback, you're just maybe not trying to win, but try not to lose.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so we talked about Hurts, we talked about a QB, we talked about our RB and Jonathan Taylor. Let's go to my second guy who I'm stuck on here. Another RB, another running back for me. He's coming in, it looks like right around pick number 16 overall, RB12 overall for the Washington football team, the Fighting Football Team. I'm not really sure what to do with Antonio Gibson this year. I really don't know. Does he have that upside to be a great running back? I just don't know. Help me.
Okay, so Antonio Gibson, converted college wide receiver, 6'2", 220 pounds, blazing speed, outstanding hands. No one really with him in the backfield to speak of. McKissick's a decent back, but he's aging, and he's more of a receiver type. You have improvement at quarterback. You can't get any worse than they were last year. It can only go up in quarterback play from where they were last year with Haskins and Alex Smith and others, Heineke. So Ryan Fitzpatrick, how it doesn't matter how old he is, he's going to have the offense moving. Offense that's moving means more touchdown chances. Antonio Gibson absolutely will be the goal line back. And he has a really good chance to steal third down work from McKissick. I just think there is 0% chance he can finish any worse than he did last year. And that's his floor where he was last year, which I believe he had 11 touchdowns last year, and he can only go up. I just think his upside is even higher than the really safe running backs in the first round, like Zeke, who has a great floor. Chubb has a great floor, but I would argue that Gibson has a higher upside than both of those people because of just how dynamic he is and how great of an athlete, and the Skins are going to be good this year. So I'm
not the Skins, the football teams.
Oh, sorry. Gosh, sue me. Yeah. So all in Gibson.
Okay.
All right. This is going to be really hard for me because I love Antonio Gibson. Okay, you should never draft Antonio Gibson. Here's why. The people drafted around him are just so much safer. You have Joe Mixon, who's on a high-powered Cincinnati offense. He's a veteran running back. He's finished as an RB1 twice already in his career. Gibson was not an RB1 last year. Take the safety of Joe Mixon and take it to the bank. Gibson, he wasn't even a full-time starter last year. He has limited reps. We've never seen him play with Ryan Fitzpatrick before. The guy has only been a running back for 13, 14 games in his life. He was a wide receiver in college. We don't know how he's going to, take the hits. He's never taken repeated hits. He's never played for a full season. We don't know if he's going to last all year. Are you really going to take someone in the beginning of the second round? We don't know if he can actually carry the load at running back. It's way too risky of a move. You absolutely should not do that. Also, Fitzpatrick He's a gunslinger. He's going to want to get the ball downfield to McLaurin, down the field to Curtis Samuel, down the field to De'Ami Brown. He's not going to be checking the ball down to Antonio Gibson. So, yeah, you might get lucky and get some goal line carries, but third down is McKissick all the way. They already proved that last year. He had 100 targets last year. They don't want Gibson handling the passing downs. So, yeah, he's going to get you a boring 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns. So don't ever draft Antonio Gibson.
All right. Well, I was really, really on the fence about him, and I was leaning more towards a sell. But I think I'm going to be a buy now after your argument. I mean, I personally think that, like, I actually thinking about it a little bit more. Ron Rivera is more of like he was a lineman in the NFL. Like he's more of an old school coach. Like I think he's going to be interested in trying to pound the rock with him. How big is he? How big is Antonio Gibson? He's not
big.
that huge. He's big.
Hold on, I'll get it exactly right. Just give me a second. He's like 6'2", 230. He's a big boy.
That's pretty good. Yeah, like I didn't think he was that big, but just I guess the idea of him being able to possibly steal catches away from JD McKissick is very enticing, because JD McKissick caught like 1,000 balls last year, and I just don't understand why. But
6'2", 221.
Yeah, that's he's bigger than I thought. So yeah. Okay, I think I'm definitely leaning more towards a buy now with Antonio Gibson, even in a possibly bad, on a bad football team or like a bad offense. But
who did Ron Rivera coach for a couple of years that has the same stature and at running back? Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's roll.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, so who's your?
So
go ahead.
It was so hard for me to put a sell argument for Gibson because I love him this year. Okay, so my second guy, this guy, I think he's one of the most polarizing players. Polarizing is I think he could be RB5. I actually know he could be RB5 because he was RB6 last year, and I think he could be RB35 or worse. I need you to tell me what to do with James Robinson.
All right, so a buy on James Robinson. Okay, wow, this is gonna be tough. Okay, so James Robinson was an absolute stud last year. He came in kind of under the radar, like no one was really. I think he was like a late round pick or
undrafted free agent.
Undrafted or like after week 1, he was a great waiver wire pickup, or even after week 2. He is a pretty dynamic runner, and he is going to be playing with a good quarterback now who we've seen in college in Trevor Lawrence be able to check the ball down to his running back and be able to implement an offense where the running back's going to get a lot of catches. Now with him, it's a matter of, we'll get at that into the sell in a second, but as far as a buy goes, he was so good last year. I just don't see a way for him to get worse potentially, especially because of sounds like the type of offense that they're going to be running with him. It sounds like he's going to be getting potentially the rep of the carries, the majority of the carries, but at the goal line, I can't see them going to ETN. Obviously, I think he's going to be the goal line back. So if anything, like if he's losing some work to ETN, then at least he's going to, I think, be getting the touchdowns at the goal line. So with James Robinson, I just think that he was so good last year that he would be a good buy this year for an upside, like you said, as an RB5 if he's getting double-digit touchdowns in an offense that we think is going to be a lot better than was last year with what's supposed to be like a dynamic quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. Now, as far as the sell goes with them, I'm much more of a sell for. Oh yeah, backwards. Yeah. So, James Robinson. Now, I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are like the dumbest team ever for drafting Travis Etienne, but obviously they wanted to make Trevor Lawrence happy. It seems like in training camp they're using him as a slot wide receiver or something, but they brought him in for a reason, and I think that with Urban Meyer, I don't think it's going to be like a split backfield situation. I think they're going to lean heavily more on ETN being a first round pick. And I just think I mean, we've even heard potential like trade rumors with James Robinson, like, going to a different team just because of the drafting ETN in the first round. So I really think that you're taking a major risk drafting James Robinson, knowing that potentially by like week 6, week 7, he slowly gets phased out of that offense potentially, especially if we know that Travis Etienne is going to be as dynamic as he was in college. And he has such a good rapport with Trevor Lawrence, being teammates for the last 3-4 years or how long they played together, that I just think eating into that workload. What is Robinson going at right now? He's going average at RB something. What is he? Let me see here.
Yeah, on
Let's see.
I think
RB22. Okay, yeah. So
that's what he's on. That's what he's on Fantasy Pros. But so the reason I'm torn on him and help me out is because in actual, like in best ball drafts, he's RB34. So it's like I'm not really in on him, but when he's there at almost an RB4, don't you have to like maybe take a shot?
I guess, but I think okay. So I think best ball is obviously a little bit different than season long drafts, and we're talking season longs here. I don't think he's going to be RB34 in season long drafts. I think people are going to see that name, see the production from last year, and they're going to be drafting him at the RB22 spot. And I just don't think he's worth it at RB34. If he's available at RB34 in your season long draft him 100%, not even a question. But at that RB22 spot, I just can't. I don't know. I just can't get to him knowing that I don't think it's going to be what we see in Cleveland with a Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt situation. I think it's more going to be like a James Robinson slowly kind of getting phased out and eventually being Travis Etienne's backfield. And we honestly don't know like what to expect out of Urban Meyer as an NFL head coach. Yes, he was a great college head coach, and we've seen plenty of great college head coaches absolutely fail in the NFL. So is he going to bring that, offense that he was running at Ohio State and Florida and all that stuff to Jacksonville? I don't know. If he is, then I think that Travis Etienne is a bigger buy than James Robinson for that offense.
Okay. So I'm just going to throw out a hypothetical. So Etienne at RB20 or Robinson at RB30, which one would you prefer to have on your team?
I personally would probably go Etienne at RB20. I think his potential upside in that offense is a lot better. And I mean, even though I think it's dumb for him to, for the Jaguars to have drafted him, but I just think in that offense, he's going to be the better play for the season.
Gotcha. Yeah. Is it bad that like I think I've made up my mind. If James Robinson's there past RB30, I'm pretty much going to pull the trigger. But here's my reason. I almost want him to get traded because if James Robinson lands on the Rams or the Falcons, watch out. Like, I mean, you just got an RB1 or your early RB2, for free, basically.
Would you ever consider it drafting both of them if Robinson fell to say like RB32?
If you draft both of them and Robinson gets traded, you literally have the nuts.
Yeah, you have the nuts. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because Etienne's going to get the keys, and James Robinson's going to be the starting running back somewhere else.
Yeah, you're assuming that he's going to be going to a better situation than what's going on.
At least like not as big of a share with a dynamic back like Etienne. Yeah,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. I can see very little scenarios. You nailed it. That there's no way come week 15, 16, 17 that James Robinson's still getting 20 carries a game.
Yeah, unless Etienne's hurt. That's the only way that I can.
It's hard to see.
Yeah.
Unless they do turn out to be the Chubb and Hunt show.
I guess we'll see. I just can't see it. I think Nick Chubb is I think that they're both that like a level above.
I shouldn't compare James Robinson's talent to Nick Chubb's talent.
Yeah. I don't think that's right. But yeah.
Okay. So my mind is I'm not drafting James Robinson to assume that he's going to be an RB2 for me. Mm-hmm. I'm drafting James Robinson for the upside of the trade, or that Etienne's role in the offense is only third down back or like a slot receiver.
If you have James Robinson in your flex position on your team to start off the year, it's not that bad of a thing. I don't think so. But as an RB2, I can't buy James Robinson as an RB2.
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right, let's move on. We've talked about some running backs, some quarterbacks, and we're going to get into a wide receiver now. We haven't talked about a wide receiver yet. Now, this guy, for me, I'm stuck on him. I've loved him as a player for many years now. He's been an absolute stud in the NFL. He's going to a new team. I'm not really sure what to do with him. Buy or sell me on Mr. Julio Jones.
Yeah, I felt that coming. Okay, so Julio Jones, he spent most of the last year hurt. So I'm not necessarily viewing that as a bad thing. The guy just continuously gets 150, 160 targets. He needed a bit of a break. I mean, that the rest on that body, I think, is going to do him some good. He just continuously plays through injuries and not playing through the end of last year. I think it's actually a good thing. So he's moving to Tennessee. He's moving off the turf, easier on his knees and ankles and everything. So he has a quarterback upgrade. Yes, Tannehill is an upgrade over Matt Ryan. He has a better offense. Atlanta, I think they had like a fake good offense because they were always losing, and then they were chucking the ball over the place, and they had Ridley and Julio, so that naturally they scored points. But with Derrick Henry on that team, AJ Brown on one side and Julio Jones on the other side, he's going to get so many one-on-one shots down the field. It's unbelievable. So I don't think there's no way he's going to get the target volume of 150 targets. He doesn't need it. He's going to get 110, 115 targets, and he's going to have a career high in touchdowns this year. I don't know if you remember, but Julio Jones is not really known for scoring touchdowns until now. Julio Jones is going to have so many one-on-one looks with AJ Brown on one side and Derrick Henry in the backfield. He is going to have a top 3 year of his career, which is now 10, 11 years deep. Mm-hmm. You should buy Julio Jones. What receiver is he?
He is coming in at, let's see here,
back end wide receiver
14. So yeah, back end wide
receiver. Early wide receiver 2.
Early wide receiver 2. Yeah.
I'm buying. If you look at his finishes over the last 7-8 years, he's continuously in the top 10. Like I said, better offense, better quarterback. Derrick Henry in the backfield, who they have to, if you don't take away Derrick Henry, the game's already over. Mm-hmm. Julio is going to get so many one-on-one shots, which he's never seen. He's been double covered his whole life. Now he's going to have single coverage by Julio Jones.
Okay. Now sell me.
Julio Jones at wide receiver 14 is the most abominable ranking I've ever seen. I mean, we have never seen him play his career off turf. He's going to be significantly slower on natural grass, and he's been banged up constantly his whole career, and he didn't play most of last year. He's currently not practicing in minicamp. Who knows what the heck is wrong with the guy? He's just been on a bike and running, very slow routes. I'm not trusting him whatsoever, especially as my wide receiver 1. There's just no way I'm leaning on this guy in a new offense with a new offensive coordinator for Tannehill, and coming off an injury riddled season. And Julio Jones, yeah, he's been great his whole career. And if you look back at his stat logs, it's because of his yardage. The guy is allergic to touchdowns. He literally doesn't know how to score touchdowns, and he gets yards because the Falcons have sucked for X amount of years, and he gets turf. He gets to play games on turf, and he's down by 15 points. Of course, he's going to rack up yardage, but he's going to be in competitive games with clock management with Derrick Henry as my wide receiver 1. There's no way he's going to get the volume. He's already proven for 10 years in a row he can't score touchdowns. Why at wide receiver 11, 12, would you not take Allen Robinson? Would you not take Terry McLaurin? Would you not take Keenan Allen? There is no way I'm drafting Julio Jones over any of those people. Get him out of here.
Get him out of here. Yeah, I really didn't understand, in Atlanta, why they just didn't throw the ball to him in the red zone, at the goal line, or just chuck it up to him and let him catch the ball. I just never really understood that.
It's really some players, they always say, like, you always hear like touchdown regression. Like if players score a lot of touchdowns, well, then they're not going to score many the next year. Or if they didn't score many touchdowns, then they are going to score more the next year. And like, I kind of believe some of that. Some players are just not good in like within 15 yards of the end zone, like understanding in their brain, how am I to get open? Like how to creatively run this route to work myself open and like be attractive for the quarterback to get the ball.
But the thing with him, he's such a big guy. Like I didn't never understood like why they just didn't like throw the ball up to him. I remember I think it was the year the year that the Eagles beat the Falcons in the championship game to go to the Super Bowl.
Mhm.
Um, the last play of that game, Matt Ryan literally
Mhm.
just like threw it up to him and like triple coverage. And like I understand that like that was the end of the game. Like I just never understood like when he had like single coverage at the 5 yard line or the 10 yard line, just never throw it up to him. And that's why he just never scored. And that I think in the Tennessee offense, getting him is a good thing as a decoy because defense is still planned for him. And I
Mhm.
think that because he's on the Titans now, I think AJ Brown is just going to have an absolute monster season because of him. That's my personal take on it.
Yeah, I agree. And size isn't everything. I mean, Baltimore's own Steve Smith, he gets
Yeah.
fades from the 5 yard line. If you have the skills and the technique and you're a bully, you're gonna get jump balls and you're gonna get balls near the red zone. I don't know what it is about Julio, but just look back. I know I'm not crazy. I don't think the guy has ever scored double-digit touchdowns. Pretty sure he hasn't.
Maybe like very early in his career, like
Yeah,
one or
I
two
don't I don't
seasons
think
ago,
so. And
yeah.
for someone who constantly puts up 1,300, 1,400 yards to have 5, 6, 7 touchdowns, like that is just odd. But
Yeah.
he's done it, 8, 9, 10 years in a row. So
Yeah.
I believe it. The guy, he just doesn't score in the red zone.
Yeah. And
Calvin,
he's
yeah, Calvin
good.
Ridley is an expert route runner.
Yeah.
So Ryan just looked for him in the red zone.
Yeah. And then on top of that, Julio is just he's gained another year in age. And I just if you're thinking about taking Julio Jones in your as your wide receiver one on your team, please play in my league. I beg you. Like just play in my league. I just would never do that. If he falls to like wide receiver two, like maybe like late wide receiver two range, maybe that's a potentially good value, but early wide receiver two or potentially your wide receiver one on your team just doesn't make sense to me.
Early in your drafts, you're trying just not to lose. And I know
Yeah.
it Julio's had such a good history of just wide receiver one finishes, but there's just too much in the air. I mean, brand new team, and I don't know. Like I made a buy case, but at wide receiver 12, I got to sell. But like you said, wide receiver 18, 19, I'm probably starting to think about it.
Yeah. I would definitely take him over Odell though.
Yeah, the I'm
All right. So yes. All right. So we talked about Julio here. Who's your next guy?
okay. Sticking with wide receiver theme.
All right.
Someone in sort of the same range a little bit later. He's gone wide receiver 22 on average in fantasy drafts. He is in the AFC North, and he is on a team with a trio of wide receivers and
Diontae Johnson.
can't seem to figure out who is going to be the alpha in this offense. I have no idea what to do with Diontae Johnson.
Man, Diontae Johnson is, in my opinion, the most talented receiver on the Steelers. Like whenever he was on the field last year, he looked so damn good. But the problem with this is that he just doesn't stay on the field that often. He gets hurt or something. But yeah, for Diontae Johnson, he's going to be playing in a run and gun offense. I think with the Steelers, they like chucking the ball, even though they have Najee Harris now. I think that does open up their pass game a little bit more because people are going to be trying to stack the box a little bit. Then they're going to have one-on-one coverages out on the outside with Claypool and Diontae and Juju. So with Diontae out of the three, I think he is the most talented receiver out of the three. He's been pretty dynamic with the ball in his hands, and if you just lay it to him, get it in his catch radius, he does seem to catch the ball I don't think he has that many drops in his NFL career. Like, I just think he's a very, very good, talented receiver. Do I wish he was on a different team? Yeah, he does kill the Ravens a lot. I do think that he would. What was that?
He had 8 drops last year.
He had 8 drops. Did he really?
Yeah, it's like a really big
Wow.
thing that he's like has the yips or something.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Okay, well, okay, never mind. I guess he does drop the ball. But either way, when he does get the ball in his hands, he is pretty dynamic. But yeah, he's a good receiver on a good offense. That I think that the even though there are a lot of mouths to feed in that offense, I think that there's enough target share in that offense that he's going to be putting up good numbers to be a wide receiver 2 on your team. Now, I personally, like I said with Jalen Hurts earlier, I love Diontae Johnson on DraftKings. The weeks where he has a good cornerback matchup or something like that. I used to play him a lot last year on DraftKings, so I think like just like from a daily fantasy aspect, he's really good. Season long as a maybe like a low end wide receiver 2, I think he fills the role pretty solidly. Now for a sell. Ben Roethlisberger just can't throw the ball anymore. I just think that he has a noodle arm, and I think that even though they're going to be chucking the ball a lot, I just think anything down the field that Ben Roethlisberger is throwing, I think that is not accurate enough to the point where he's going to be connecting a lot. Now, the other thing here is that Chase Claypool showed tremendous, upside last year in that offense, and is he going to take that next step up? I don't know. I think so. He seems like he has the ability with another full offseason of training with Ben Roethlisberger that he's going to take that next step up and be the alpha in that offense. So we factoring in Diontae Johnson versus Chase Claypool. We're not even really talking about Juju in this offense, and I just think that with those mouths to feed, with Najee Harris in the backfield, that his production could be lower than expected. But I think that the fact that I personally think that Ben Roethlisberger is going to be running for his life with a shitty offensive line, just kind of trying to chuck it down the field. I just don't. I think that he's gotten to the point where his long field accuracy is just terrible. And if he's going to be throwing it down the field, I think he's going to be throwing it more to Chase Claypool than Diontae Johnson. But Diontae Johnson in the short intermediate routes, like you said, I didn't even realize it, but like you said, drops the ball, possibly has the yips or something like that. And I don't even think when he catches the ball, he gets a lot of yak. So, potentially one of those guys that just catches it and falls down or something like that. But yeah, I just can't see in that offense him being the alpha wide receiver.
Okay. Yeah. I asked this question because I don't know what to do. It's like a lot of fantasy analysts are enamored with this guy. And I'll be honest to say, the only time I'm drafting him is because like I want to draft him and then I want to also try to get Chase Claypool like a round or two later. But
Mm-hmm.
it's because I think I can get both of them. But if the fantasy community had Chase Claypool as the wide receiver 1, because he did score 11 touchdowns last year and had 180 fantasy points as a rookie. He put up DK Metcalf numbers as a rookie. But if the fantasy community as a whole was drafting Claypool where Diontae Johnson was and Diontae Johnson where Claypool was, I'd be drafting Claypool first. But the thing is, I think I can get him later. So for me, I know Diontae Johnson is elite route runner, separator, struggled with drops last year, but I guess that happens when you have 140 targets, or like Ben just wouldn't stop throwing him the ball. It was like the weirdest thing. He missed I don't know exactly how many games, but it was like 3-4 games and he still had 140 targets. Like that's insane. So it's hard to fade a guy that's going to get force fed the ball that much, but Pitt's not throwing it as much as they did last year and as short as they did last year. I think, Najee's going to get way more carries than Connor got last year. I was hoping you had a really good buy argument on.
It's probably gonna give me a better buy argument on him, but it's just in that offense. Like I just feel like Claypool's the better value.
I feel like people tout Deontay so hard, but I don't know. Like, I feel like you can poke pins in every buy argument because Claypool is the big bodied alpha receiver. Juju's not going away. I mean, the guy had almost 100 catches last year. He kind of sucks now, but he's going to get the ball. And Najee Harris is the red zone guy. And they drafted Pat Freiermuth, another tight end, to go with Ebron.
Mhm.
I just don't. I don't get the Diontae Johnson love. Maybe
Do you
some.
think? Do you think? Do you think drafting Najee Harris, they're going to go back to more of a Pittsburgh type offense where they pound the rock and throw the ball less?
I don't think they have the personnel to do that with
Yeah,
their offensive line being so bad, but they have to be more balanced than they were last year. I mean,
yeah.
Ben literally was just like, he was like walking the plank last year. Like he had no
Mhm.
elbow and threw the ball like 600 times. They can't do that again. So I don't know. I mean,
I feel like I have this like vague like memory of last year of Diontae Johnson. I was like super high on him one week, and then he just like played like a quarter, and then just like we didn't
well,
see him on the field for like the rest of the game or something like that. Like I feel like
I
he
think
feels hurt
twice.
pretty
I
easily.
think twice he left the game in the first half and like put
Yeah.
up no points or like one catch or something. Man, like in our dynasty league we're in together, I drafted Deontay Johnson. I mean, I was super high on him, and I drafted him, and then I don't know, man. I'm just not super impressed. So,
Yeah.
if I'm after a Pittsburgh receiver, I know Deontay is going first out of all three of them. He's probably the one I'm going to own the least because I'm taking Claypool at the 1 or 2 round discount, and Juju's going a round or two after Claypool. So you just never know how that's going to shake out. So I'm going for the guys that are a little bit cheaper. Deontay doesn't show the ceiling to me.
Yeah, I think the value's better with Claypool for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so we've gone through three guys each. We're going to go to my fourth guy. Pretty similar theme to Julio Jones. We're going to go to another wide receiver for me. Another guy on a new team coming off of an injury last year. Not really sure what to do with him this year. It seems like he's in an offense with a lot of mouths to feed. So I'm going, I'm really stuck on Kenny Golladay. We've seen the talent from him before. We know the numbers that he can put up, but in a new offense on the Giants with what I think is a pretty shitty quarterback in Daniel Jones, like what do you think of Kenny Golladay this year?
Yeah, so Kenny Golladay didn't play much last year. He was hurt for most of the year. A lot of people are suspicious that that was kind of like a contractual, argument with the team, and his injury was overblown due to he was unhappy and wanted a contract extension, but didn't get it. So anyway, Kenny Galladay is as fresh as can be. So he doesn't have, he's 27, but he was an old wide receiver when he was drafted, and he didn't play last year. So in my mind, the guy's 24. He has a fresh start on a new team. It's probably going to be exactly like when Diggs went to Buffalo and made Josh Allen an MVP candidate. Daniel Jones, here it comes in 2021. Daniel Jones has never had so many weapons like this before. Saquon's back. They're going to be stacking the box to stop Saquon. And they can't just focus on Kenny Golladay. Evan Ingram has 4.4 speed. He will burn you. They drafted Kadarius Toney, who's one of the best playmakers around the line of scrimmage. Sterling Shepard is a great playmaker. They have to pay attention to him. And Kenny Golladay was brought to this team to, oh my gosh, his name's slipping my head. Who's the guy that caught all the touchdowns his rookie
Darius
year?
Slayton.
Darius Slayton.
Darius
He's the
Slayton.
Darius
Yeah.
Slayton replacement. So if Darius Slayton can catch 8 touchdowns on this team from Daniel Jones, Kenny Golladay can catch 12 easily. The guy has absolute alpha size, 6'3", 6'4", 220 pounds. He's a down the field monster, jump ball extraordinaire. He's a guy that can score in the red zone. Everyone's going to be focusing on Saquon. The guy is going to have 10 touchdowns at a floor. He's not a 100 catch guy, but he's going to give you, 70 catches, 1,200, 1,300 yards, and 10 touchdowns. Being drafted around wide receiver 20, 22, what more can you want? He has the weekly upside to win you a week. He's a big play threat anytime the ball's in the air to him. So I'm all in Kenny Golladay.
All right.
Okay. So Kenny Golladay, absolute punk. The guy is not a team player. As you could see last year, his hip injury or whatever he had, he turned into a little crybaby, didn't play all year, you know, got paid this year, and it's going to take till about week 3 until he realizes he's now catching balls from Daniel Jones instead of Matt Stafford. So his career year that he put up under Matt Stafford 2 years ago when I think he was wide receiver 3 in standard, wide receiver 9 in PPR. That was his absolute ceiling year under Matt Stafford. You're not even going to come close to it. And mind you, if you're playing in any sort of PPR format, why would you ever want this guy? I mean, if he catches 5 balls a game, that's a lot. So I'm looking, in that range for way more someone like Diontae Johnson, Cooper Kupp, Brandon Ayuk, someone's going to get the ball way more times a game. Diontae Johnson, Kenny Golladay, he thinks he's Megatron because he played in Detroit. He's not. He's the most fake alpha I've ever seen. I mean, the guy's had 1.5 good years, and he is whining about a contract. I mean, and now you give him to Daniel Jones, forget about it. I will own him on 0 teams.
All right, 0 teams. That's pretty strong. Yeah, being on the Giants where they seem like they have a lot of receivers. I think they still have Darius Slayton, don't they? Like, So they still have Slayton. They still have Sterling Shepard. They had drafted a wide receiver in the first round. They signed Golladay. I don't know if they still have Golden Tate, but they might still have Golden Tate too. Who knows?
I don't think so.
Yeah, but either way, they still have like a lot of receivers to feed there. In that offense, is he going to be? I mean, Darius Slayton's pretty damn good. Like, is he going to be the guy to catch, the target share in that offense to pay off his price tag at wide receiver, wherever he's going, like 22 or 23 or whatever. But yeah, and also I agree. I mean, him kind of sort of potentially faking an injury last year. I don't know. Like, he looked like, he played a few games where he looked like he was fine, and then all of a sudden he's hurt again and trying to protect his body potentially to get a big contract this upcoming year. I don't know. Even though the Lions were a shitty team, like they weren't going to make the playoffs or anything like that. So I think he just kind of tanked it for the year, if that's a good word, like they do in the NBA, just kind of rest and just wait for that big contract, because he had such a career year the year before, and like people remember that when they see Kenny Golladay, they're like, oh my god, that guy was like wide receiver 3, like you said, in standard leagues. Like, he was an absolute beast. So I'm on the fence with him. I could see taking a stab at him. I do like him as a player. I wish he was a Raven. Like, I think he would fit so well in our offense with catching balls from Lamar. But I just being on the Giants is I just think it was the wrong fit for him. I just don't think that was the right team to go to for him. But I think I'm leaning more towards the sell. But I could definitely, if he's available and he's like staring me in the face, I could potentially click his name.
Okay, let's do it just on Golladay, because I'm still stuck on him too. So I'm glad you brought him up. Let's do a little bit of like this or that. So okay, Tyler Lockett or Kenny Golladay?
Tyler Lockett for sure.
DJ Moore or Kenny Golladay?
Kenny Golladay for me.
Okay. Brandon Ayuk or Kenny Golladay?
That's a tough one. I think I'm gonna go with between. That's like right there, like on the fence for me. Like, I think I'm more leaning towards Golladay just because I don't really know how the quarterback play is going to be in San Francisco, but that's like the line for me right there. Yeah. Like, if I'm looking that in the face, probably Golladay for me, but I could see Ayuk being a good argument there.
Yeah, I tried to name the people in his exact range. So once I went lower than him, you changed your mind. So that's probably where I am too. So yeah,
I will take Jamar Chase over Kenny Golladay.
Yeah, he's right there too. I don't know that we gave the people an opinion on Kenny Golladay.
Yeah, I know. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know. It's tough. He's one of the most like on the fence guys for me this year. That's why he's on this list for me. Or like he's on this list. I just don't know what to say about Kenny Golladay. I think that if you think that he has the upside to put up the numbers that he put up in Detroit, go ahead, take a stab at him. I think it could potentially be worth it and potentially possibly win you a league. I don't know.
Right. I think we're doing a good job picking these like polarizing players that
Yeah.
are league winners, but also
Yeah.
huge flop candidates, right?
Yeah.
So Kenny Golladay is first in line for that for me. I don't know any other way to say it. So
Yeah. All right.
if you've had 7 beers and feel like being risky, go for it. But
go for it.
yeah, I'm gonna take the safer player at that rank.
Yeah. All right. Who's your fourth guy?
Okay, sticking with the wide receivers and going a little bit more down the board for this one. Trying to help the people decide what to do. This is going to be in the wide receiver 3 flex range. It's someone who I can't decide what to do. On one hand, this person's never really worked out in the NFL, and on the other hand, they're a high first round pick and on a easy top 10 offense, maybe top 5 offense in the NFL. I need you to tell me what to do with Mike Williams.
Mike Williams. Okay. All right. So Mike Williams, he's obviously playing with, Justin Herbert, who's a great quarterback. And I think Justin Herbert has the ability to, feed the ball to Keenan Allen, feed the ball to share the ball around in that offense. So Mike Williams, we obviously know he was a top 5 pick in the NFL draft, something like that.
Like that.
Yeah, he hasn't lived up to that potential. Obviously, we know that he's a wide receiver 2 on a team with a potential Hall of Fame receiver in Keenan Allen. But the guy does know how to catch the ball when it's thrown to him. You throw it up to Mike Williams, just toss it, chuck it up to him, and he knows how to come down with the ball, especially in the end zone. Like this guy catches touchdowns. Now, is he the route runner that Keenan Allen is? No. Is he the has the hands like Keenan Allen on that team? No. That's why Keenan Allen is the wide receiver 1. But if you're looking for a guy that's a boom or bust, any given week can catch like 2 or 3 touchdowns, Mike Williams is your guy. Like in that offense, I think they're going to be just literally chucking the ball all day. They're going to utilize Justin Herbert's arm all day. They have a pass catching running back in Austin Eckler, who's not really a between the downs, between the hash marks runner, more of a pass catching running back. So like I think like in that offense, Mike Williams, he going to be that downfield threat, no doubt. Now, like you said, as a flex player, he was on my dynasty team in our sleeper league. I traded him away this offseason for a draft pick, I believe. But I just felt that his potential moving forward, like down the line, not that great for a dynasty. But this year, upcoming season, with another offseason under the belt, with a full offseason of training with Justin Herbert, I think that he's definitely a very good buy option at the flex position. Now, Mike Williams is a sell. This guy gets tackled by potentially like an 8-year-old, and he's going to get hurt for some reason. Like literally, like I feel like I could tackle the guy and get hurt.
He has more rough falls than I've ever seen.
Like at any time the guy goes up for a catch and goes down, you literally are holding your breath if you have him on your team if he gets hurt. Like it just that fear alone is like a sell for me. Like I just don't like that for a guy. He's missed a lot of games in his career. Playing under a Hall of Fame quarterback within Phillip Rivers and then switching to Justin Herbert. Like these guys were, he caught Rivers at the tail end of his career where he couldn't really throw the ball downfield, but now he has this young guy, gunslinging quarterback that's able to launch the ball downfield. I think he is a good fit in that offense, but just that injury fear is just like so scary. And like he could just literally like catch one ball and get hurt and be out for a while. So I'm not, like I said, I traded him away in Dynasty. I just don't see the potential long term for him. Maybe for one more season, he could potentially boom a little bit for you. But just in that offense, I think it runs through Keenan Allen. I think Keenan Allen is the primary focus in that offense. He gets the majority of the target share in that offense. Austin Eckler eats into the target share as well. I just think going down, just taking a flyer, not a flyer really, but taking like a flex option on a guy who's so boomer bust, so volatile, is a little scary for me. Has that injury potential. I just, I, I just can't see taking him as a flex player. Maybe like as your, first benched wide receiver, like on your bench or second bench wide receiver, fine. But starting him week to week in a season long league, just it's not for me.
Yeah, he's currently wide receiver 47, which is a back end wide receiver 4. So, yeah. So I think the consensus agrees with you that he's barely a wide receiver 4. So people want him as a flex option, maybe, but they're not really leaning on that. So he's tough for me, man, because like that offense was so good last year, and Herbert was a rookie. So now, I mean, so Keenan Allen's going to get his, Eckler's going to get his, Hunter Henry's gone. Who else is going to get the ball? You have to throw the ball to more than 2 people.
Jared Cook.
Okay, he's 34. He's going to come in when they're inside the 20 to like catch touchdowns. But I don't know. Like you said, it's like Mike Williams is so frustrating because he makes highlight reel catches and he scores. He has like those games where he catches 3 balls for 99 yards and 2 touchdowns, and then the next game he just disappears. So I don't
just looking at like some of the other guys around him, I just would like some of these names I would prefer over him, like Jarvis Landry, Curtis Samuel, Michael Gallup, like even like a little bit lower, like Marvin Jones for the Jaguars. Like I prefer these guys over Mike Williams, but the guys that are like directly next to him, like on like average ADP, like Hollywood Brown. I think between him and Hollywood Brown, I think that's a pretty big toss-up. I would probably prefer Hollywood Brown over Mike Williams, but some of these other guys, I think I'd take Mike Williams a shot over like Michael Pittman, Corey Davis, like Henry Ruggs, these type of guys. But some of these other names, I would rather, prefer to get them. But, when you're at this point in your draft and you're, kind of deciding between who you like, it's just like, what I say every week on my golf podcast, like, when you're dipping down into the 6K range, go with the guy who you feel most comfortable with. Like if you think Mike Williams is going to have that boom season and you think he's going to live up to the number 4 pick in the draft or whatever he was, go for it. Like that's your guy. But I prefer some of these other names right around him personally.
Yeah, I think I was on the fence, but I think I'm gonna sell just because I'm looking at average draft position right now. Mike Williams is 47, and I can easily pick out 3 people just right away that are below him in ADP that I'd rather have straight up. And so rather than drafting Mike Williams, can you please draft Michael Gallup, Corey Davis, Marvin Jones, Darnell Mooney?
Yeah, definitely.
So
I'm very high on Michael Gallup this year. I would take Michael Gallup 10 times over 10.
I don't even think that's a question. I mean, he's a wide receiver 3 in Dallas, but I think him versus Mike Williams is not even a question. So go Gallup big time. And with Mike Williams, I think he's still riding that the fact that he was a first round pick. He
is exciting to watch. I will give him that. Like when there's a ball going up to him, it is fun to watch him go up and get it. And I mean, you do have that fear of him getting hurt, but he is an exciting player to watch. I'll give him that much.
Yeah, I would say injury risk, but if you're a risky drafter and you want to draft him and watch him the first couple of weeks and see how Herbert is throwing to him and and see how he's using this offense, I'm not going to blame you because his upside is probably higher than the people like Gallup and like Curtis Samuel, because the Chargers are going to score a shit ton of points. So
let me ask you a question. So say you have Mike Williams on your team and let's just say he's on your bench for week 1 and he goes off for like 2 touchdowns or whatever, like the first like couple weeks or something like that. Are you this year specifically
trading him?
Going to stick with him, or are you going to try to trade him?
Trade him.
Yeah,
I mean, typically we can get into like just a touch of game theory here. If I draft someone that's not for my starting lineup and they instantly increase their value like drastically. Like they go from like I drafted them to be a bench player to they are easily in the conversation for like a RB2 or like a wide receiver 2 within like 1 or 2 weeks. They're 100%. I'm at least going to try to trade them for
Yeah.
value, right? And
Yeah.
get a player that was drafted that high, that's done it repeatedly 3-4 years in a
A
row.
more consistent person. Yeah.
I trust 4 years of stats over 2 games every
Yeah.
time. So
Mhm.
that's a good move. If people in your league, like to, if Mike Williams
Hitting
does
it.
have three touchdowns in 2 weeks and they say,
Yeah.
wow, he made a couple great catches. If you can go flip him for Cooper Kupp, like peace.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like I feel like in every league, there's always that sucker guy or a couple suckers that see like the amazing. He puts up like 30 fantasy points like the first like couple games each. Like they just get so enamored by it that they're like, oh my god, I'm going to give up. Like you said, someone like Cooper Kupp or like somebody maybe even a little worse than Cooper Kupp for him who I think would be a much better player long term that you would rather have in the playoffs than Mike Williams.
Can I tell us a quick story that was the
Yeah, sure.
opposite side of that? So last year in my big money league, picked up Justin Jefferson around like week 5 or 6, and then he went absolutely off that one week. It was like the first week. I think he scored like I think it was week 7 or 8. He scored 2 touchdowns and 150 yards, like 7 or 8 catches.
Yeah.
Well, sold him immediately for it was like him and someone else for DK Metcalf, who had, if you remember, had an amazing
Yeah.
first half of the year and then was dog shit the rest of the year. And
Mhm.
Justin Jefferson was amazing the second half of the year. So I
Yeah.
that's an example of how that doesn't always work.
Yeah, I traded Justin Jefferson coincidentally last year too, in a league that I was had a good chance to win. And Justin Jefferson, I had a really solid wide receiver core, and I was really lacking in tight end. I kind of wish I didn't do this, but I did towards the tail end of the season. I traded Justin Jefferson for Travis Kelce to try to win the championship, and it just at the end of I lost in the semifinals. I wish if I would have kept on to Justin Jefferson and just kept streaming my tight ends, I would have ended up winning the league. But it was a decision that I made just thinking that it was going to put me over the top. But at the end of the day, like Justin Jefferson just was absolutely amazing this year, which is why I'm so high on him this year. I'm going to be very high on Justin Jefferson this year.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's get down to our last guys.
Right.
We're going to go to the tight end position for me this time. We've talked about quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers. Now we're going to go to a tight end that I just don't know what to do with. We know the talent is there. We've seen it. He's caught balls for Matt Stafford for a while, and he is now going to shitty Jared Goff. Please sell or buy me on T.J Hockenson.
Okay. T.J Hockenson, let's see. He's going around tight end 5 or 6?
Yeah, tight end. Right now I'm seeing on Fantasy Pros tight end 6. Yeah.
Okay. So T.J Hockenson is, I'm just going to call him not a tight end. He's receiver 1 for the Lions. He will almost definitely lead the Lions in targets this year and in touchdowns through the air. And he's their number 1 weapon. He was the highest drafted tight end in a while, and then Kyle Pitts came along. I forget what number he was drafted, but I think it was like seven or eight. Yeah. So the talent's there. You saw it in his rookie year. His first game as a pro, he went off for over 100 yards and a touchdown. This past season, he was the most consistent tight end not named Travis Kelce. I mean, I know like Waller and Waller put up better numbers, but Hockenson was like the model citizen of 6 catches, 60 yards, and coin flip for a touchdown. That is exactly what you want from your tight end position, because it can be an extremely frustrating position. And at tight end 6, it's not too high of a price to get the guaranteed locked in numbers. And that was last year when he had other weapons surrounding him. He's the only one there. They have Tyrell Williams and Brashad Perriman. They're both going to be hurt by week 5. Hawkinson's going to be the alpha in the offense. I wouldn't even consider him a tight end. He's going to be flexed out in the slot. He's going to get all the red zone looks. And he is the alpha wide receiver on the Detroit Lions. You can comfortably draft him over Kyle Pitts and Mark Andrews without thinking twice. Okay, why you should never draft T.J. Hockenson? Well, number one is he is on the absolute worst offense in the NFL, with arguably a bottom 2 or 3 quarterback in the NFL. When you combine the worst offense in the NFL with the worst quarterback, you're not scoring a lot of points. Not scoring a lot of points is not a lot of fantasy points. So sure, he's going to get his 5-6 catches a game. He's going to get his 40 yards, 50 yards a game. We've seen he can do that. The same thing's going to happen again this year. Are you really going to draft Hockenson in the 5th round to get ho-hum tight end numbers? Why? I can draft Robert Tonyan or Jonnu Smith in the 10th or 11th round and get the same numbers as Hockenson. He's a terrible value. He provides no upside in that offense. And, he didn't get double covered last year. He will absolutely receive double coverage this year because no safety help is coming for Tyrell Williams. No safety help is coming from Brashad Perriman. And there's nowhere else to go with the ball besides T.J. Hockenson and DeAndre Swift out of the backfield. So they're going to see a lot of stack boxes. Everyone's going to be crowded into the line. Goff can't throw it down the field. He's petrified. Hawkinson's going to have no room to run. It's just the upside's not there. And at that draft position, you need upside. You need the ability to finish at tight end 3 or higher. He doesn't have it.
All right. Yeah, I think at the tight end position, there's just no way in hell I'm ever going to take T.J. Hockenson over Kelsey, Kittle, or Waller.
No.
But right there, I would take him over Pitts. I just don't know what to do. Like, I just don't think Pitts is good. I think it might be a little bit of a bust, but that line drawn between him and Mark Andrews is a tough one for me. I lean towards Mark Andrews a little bit more just because the quarterback play is a lot better. We've seen Andrews be the favorite target in the offense for Lamar Jackson at times. But yeah, the thing with like you said with the Lions is that who the hell else is going to catch the ball in that offense? Like, I legit don't know. Like, and we've seen it from Jared Goff in the past. Like, he likes to go to his tight ends for the Rams. Like, I mean, Gerald Everett was good, and Higbee like had some monster games with him. So it was a little different there. He had more weapons, to spread it around. But like that double coverage for T.J. Hockenson is coming this year. It's going to be a linebacker with safety help over the top, trying to. They might even put like some defenses might put actual cornerbacks on him, especially if he splits out wide as like in a wide receiver position. Like, I just think that call between, if you're in that position and you need a tight end between Mark Andrews and T.J. Hockenson, I lean more towards Mark Andrews, but you gave me a good argument with Hockenson there. It's a really, really tough decision. I'm probably going to be leaning more towards a buy now than a sell, just because of how high his target share is going to be this year. I just think getting a shit ton of targets, he's going to catch a lot of those balls, and even in the red zone, just look for him catch a lot of touchdowns. I think he's a good buy this year.
Yeah, I think if you so the tight end position is always tough, right? Because if you have Kelsey, Kittle, Waller, you're not really worried about. You can kind of like set it and forget it. Yeah. I think Hockenson and Andrews are kind of on that border of being able to set it and forget it. Hawkinson's going to give you a floor. Put it this: he's not going to have many complete bust games because there's just not many game situations where he's going to have 3 catches for 30 yards, because who's going to catch the ball? No one. But he's not going to have the ceiling games. So it really depends on your risk tolerance and kind of the team you've built. So if you've built kind of a really safe team and you're in the 5th or 6th round and you're trying to decide between Kyle Pitts and Hockenson, and you want to, spice it up and go for the upside, go for Kyle Pitts. If you have a bunch of risky players that you're kind of taking swings on and you say, well, I want a safe person in my lineup now, you can't get much safer, in my opinion, than Hockenson. Like, I can't fathom a possibility other than injury that he finishes lower than like tight end 6 or 7. I don't think it's possible.
Yeah, I don't think it's possible either. All right.
So,
All right, who do you got me for the last guy on our list?
Okay, so going back to um, tight end position.
All right.
So this player is drafted at tight end 2, tight end 3, usually within the second round. If he falls out of the second round, it's early third. And not arguing the talent on the player whatsoever. I need you to sell me on the draft position. Why in the back end of the second round or in the beginning of the third round am I drafting Darren Waller?
Man, I absolutely love Darren Waller. He is like an absolute beast. So he is my tight end on my dynasty team in our league, and I drafted him knowing that the upside for him is just unbelievable. He knows how to just. I mean, the guy can literally catch like 20 balls in like one game if Derek Carr threw him the ball enough. And just like we were just arguing with T.J. Hockenson, like the Raiders, like their wide receiver play is not that great. Like Henry Ruggs is whatever. Like Brian Edwards is whatever. Like they lost their best receiver probably, Nelson Aguilar last year. Who knows? But Darren Waller, I think he's like the same size or maybe even bigger potentially than Travis Kelce. Like his size is just like unbelievable. Like you throw the ball up to him, he is going to come down the ball. And the thing that I've noticed over the last couple of years with Darren Waller, who happens to also be an ex-Raven, God knows why he just wasn't Darren Waller he is now with the Ravens. I just don't understand why he didn't play like
He was on the sauce.
he was drinking too much or drugs or whatever. But he's obviously reached his potential for the reason what the Ravens saw in him as a draft candidate player, like in college, like the potential that we saw. He's that player now. He just he just knows how to get open. Even when he's not he doesn't get open. He knows how to body up against a receiver. Derek Carr loves feeding the ball to him, and he just puts up monster games. Can he battle Travis Kelce for tight end 1 for the year? I think yes. I think it is an absolute yes. Travis Kelce is the ultimate number 1 stud. We didn't know he's on his own tier in the tight end position, but I think that Darren Waller at the end, like you do with potentially drafting Travis Kelce in the round 1, you set it and you forget it, and he locks up your tight end position for the whole year. I think you're absolutely getting that with Darren Waller. I take him over George Kittle. I think he is tight end number 2, and I think he could press Travis Kelce for tight end number 1 this year. After this season, if he puts up another monster year like he did last year, we might be talking next year during this time that Darren Waller is going to be the first tight end off the board, especially if Travis Kelce is going to be another year older. So that's my buy on Darren Waller. He's so freaking good. I just think he's an absolute stud. He's an absolute buy for me. Going to be tough for me to sell him, but maybe let's talk about him being in Vegas. I don't know, is maybe he goes back.
I haven't heard that one. That's good.
Going back on the sauce, maybe, I don't know, but Derek Carr is kind of shitty. Like he's not the greatest quarterback in the world. The John Gruden likes to run the ball a lot. Obviously, we know that.
2 running backs in town now.
Yeah, 2 running backs in town. Like, are they really going to be chucking the ball down the field a lot? Who knows? Defenses. After having, I think, 2 years of solid tape on Darren Waller, they know that he is the primary guy in that offense, even though he is pretty unstoppable. Like they're going to double cover him. Just like we said with T.J. Hockenson, they are going to double cover him, even though I think even through double coverage, will get targets. And who knows? Henry Ruggs might take a step up this season. I know you're high on Edwards as a wide receiver too. So who knows? They might be chucking the ball downfield a little bit more to the wide receivers. In the red zone, maybe sometimes Darren Waller disappears a little bit. I don't know. But it's a tough sell for trying to make a sell argument for Darren Waller is pretty tough for me. I mean, we know who the Raiders are. They tend to sometimes just be god awful. and not be able to utilize their weapons and stuff like that. We know John Gruden's a pretty good offensive mind or whatever, but Raiders are the Raiders, and they're going to sometimes make bonehead decisions and not feed their best player on offense. So who knows? I just at the draft position, like you were saying, as a late second round, early third round pick, are you going to take that risk of taking a tight end instead if you missed out on Travis Kelce up top, or are you going to go to a more safer position at a wide receiver or like a RB2 or something like that? That's kind of that's the tough call decision that you have to make. But yeah, that's kind of all I have to say as far as a sell for Darren Waller.
Okay, so I'm not going to argue the talent. Said that over and over.
Yeah.
Here's my conundrum. Okay, so let's say we have the third pick of the draft. Okay, so we're picking Derrick Henry or Alvin Kamara. And then when we come back, we pick Justin Jefferson in the second round. And then in the third round, we have our pick between Darren Waller or DK Metcalf or J.K. Dobbins. So the thing with me is, do I lock up tight end and have a running back, wide receiver, tight end start and just say I'm super balanced? Or do I have the stud running back and then take Justin Jefferson or A.J. Brown in the second round and then come back with DK Metcalf or Keenan Allen and say, well, I have the best two receiver combo in the league?
Yeah. You just got to kind of make the decision whether or not you put Darren Waller on that close to that tier one with Travis Kelce. And if you do, I think you should draft him at that position. But if you think he's more, like if you personally think he's more towards the Mark Andrews or Kyle Pitts or T.J. Hockenson range, then you're probably going to go with Dobbins or the other guys that DK Metcalf in that range. So it's just kind of how you are feeling Darren Waller. I'm buying him at that spot. So that's just me personally.
That's a good argument. I've never heard that one. So, okay. Yeah. So our take is, if you think Darren Waller is going to finish closer in fantasy points to Travis Kelce than he is to T.J. Hockenson, then draft Darren Waller in the early third round. And I can actually get behind that. So I wasn't really drafting him because I like to, have those two stud running backs or two stud receivers out of the first three rounds. But
I think there is safety. Like, I think there is a lot of safety drafting Darren Waller and locking him in as your tight end for the rest of the year. I don't think there's ever going to be a situation where you're going to consider playing a different tight end in that spot. Like if you drafted a tight end, like a backup tight end later on, like I just don't think that's a feasible thing for him.
And that's another nice game theory thing is, if you have Kelce, Waller, or Kittle, just don't even draft another tight end and use that draft pick to take a shot on Michael Carter or like some rookie running back that, could pop. So why do you need another tight end? You might as well not even take one.
Yeah, I agree. And then like on his bye week, you can just stream a tight end and pick up someone on the waivers for that week. It's such a volatile position. You never really know. But yeah, all right. So we went through our 10 guys. I hope you guys got some useful information out of that. Mike behind the glass, was there any guys in the live chat that we wanted to talk about? That anyone? Let me throw guys. Good. Yeah, we do. Well, a lot of these guys, no one can really hear Mike talking right now, but he's talking in my ear. So, Butch Welsh, nice chat. Shout out to Butch. He's one of our boys. Lives in Baltimore. He's giving some feedback to us in the chat. Butch, I will see you in a few weeks in Vegas. I'll see Chris too in Vegas week 1 for the NFL season. We're all going to the game. Chris and Butch in the chat, like everyone, a lot of my boys are flying out to Vegas for the Ravens Raiders game, Monday Night Football week 1. I'm going to take the trek and drive over there from California, and we're going to have a fun weekend. Hopefully bring home a win that week. So shout out to Butch. I'll see you in a few weeks in Vegas, buddy. I don't know who that is.
That's also Butch. Yeah. So anyway, thank you, Butch, for the the chats all along. Looks like he agrees with us with Jonathon Taylor, and he's a big buy on J-Rob. So we'll see how that works out. I know we have a couple of drafts together, Butch. So we'll see who pulls the trigger on those guys, and looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So what do you got,
So,
Rick? Any other players you want to talk about or news?
no, not really. I mean, as a Ravens fan, the news of Rashad Bateman going down and getting hurt, soft tissue injury, looks like he's probably not going to be ready for the beginning of the season. I don't know why we have such bad luck. These last three wide receivers that we drafted, like with injury concerns, Rashad Perryman, then Marquise Brown, and now Rashad Bateman. Like, I just don't know why we have this injury bug amongst our wide receivers for who we draft in the first round. I just feel like the wide receiver position for the Ravens is just cursed. I don't know what it is, but it just seems like we just can't get there and figure out the right guy to draft in that spot. I just don't know. I mean, hopefully, like, he comes back healthy and has a monster season, but I just that was a depressing news. Like, we got this earlier this week.
Yeah, non-contact injury on Rashad Bateman, but the good news was they said it'll be weeks, not months, on his injury. So hopefully weeks means 3 or 4 weeks, and he'll just miss it sucks he'll miss the preseason, but if he'll be back in the first couple of weeks, that would be good. We'll throw some Bills news in there. A couple interesting things.
Yeah.
With the Bills. So I saw a report. I've kind of been paying attention. Whoever is going to be the starting running back between Zach Moss and Devin Singletary is going to win fantasy leagues, I think, because their offense is high power. They're going to score a ton of points. I think they're going to run Allen a little less inside the 5-yard line. But and I saw a report that Zach Moss just looks great, but then he had an injured hamstring. So and it's just, here we go again with Zach Moss. He was hurt nonstop in college. He's super talented, but the guy can't stay off the trainer's table. I was hoping we would get a full year of healthy Zach Moss, but it looks like we might have to bumble through another year of Devin Singletary, playing, kind of sucky.
Yeah.
But so the running back position in Buffalo is kind of up for grabs. They don't really have a locked in tight end. I wish they would trade for Zach Ertz. That makes way too much sense
That would be
not
a
to
good
do.
move. Yeah.
And then the battle for wide receiver 2, Emmanuel Sanders versus Gabriel Davis. So Buffalo has a lot going on, and I really am looking forward to watching them in preseason to see who wins those battles.
And they have a very, very, very rich man behind center now, getting that huge contract. So congratulations, Josh Allen. Well-deserved contract. You are a stud of a quarterback. I think the next domino to fall is going to be either Lamar or Baker Mayfield or something like that. I'm thinking that Josh Allen kind of set the market for that quarterback class right there. So we'll see. I'm assuming Lamar's contract is going to be a little bit bigger. Baker's probably even going to be a little bit bigger. Who knows? But congratulations to him. He's well-deserved contract. He's going to be a stud this year. He's going to be an MVP candidate this year. Bills are looking good. I think they're pretty much a lock to win the AFC East. I don't think anyone's going to really challenge him for that, division crown. And if we get a Bills-Ravens game again in the playoffs this year, then hopefully we can win this one. But we'll see.
Man, all that talk again. So you're giving Tua and Cam Newton just no credit, huh?
No credit whatsoever. I think the Jets suck. I think the Dolphins are not that good. I mean, the Dolphins, I will say, have a really good head coach. So if they were going to challenge the Bills for the division, great defense. Yeah, I agree with that. I think the Patriots are washed. I don't think they're going to be that good, but who knows? I don't think that they're going to be able to those three. I don't think the Patriots and the Dolphins are going to be able to challenge them for a division, but they should be in the mix of it for a wild card spot for sure this year.
Yeah, for sure. 17 games, gonna have plenty of time to stake your claim on that wild card. The wild card races should be wild with the extra game in there.
Yeah, it's that's another thing we never really talked about with a 17 game season, the schedule this year. Make sure you guys are playing in fantasy leagues that don't play week 18, I guess. Yeah, the last game of the year. Make sure your season ends. The championship game is week 17 there, because just week 18, a lot of players just rest and stuff like that. So it's just not worth it. So make sure you play those kind of leagues.
Yeah, for sure. And
Yeah.
with the extra game, I think one thing that I'm gonna be doing is taking more backup running backs in drafts.
Mhm.
I think with the extra game, head coaches aren't stupid. They don't want to. You can't give your lead back, 20 to 25 carries every game for that extra game. I think
Yeah.
when they're questionable with groin or hamstring or hip injuries or something like that, I think they're going to lean on the side of caution
Mm.
because there is that extra game. So I'm big into the backup running back market this year, more so than
Yeah.
normal.
Definitely going to be an interesting season. All right, guys. So we're going to call that a wrap for this show. Me and Chris are going to be back and do another show. Probably, I'm thinking after the second week of preseason games.
Mhm.
We're gonna see how these training camp these battles are going in camp and practice and stuff like that. Any big injury news that comes out after these first couple weeks, we're just gonna kind of wrap that up and see. Recap all that and see like what the outlook is on the draft, if anything has majorly changed or anything like that. So we'll be back in probably a couple of weeks to do another show on a Wednesday night, just kind of recapping the first couple of weeks, what we saw in preseason. So with that said, like and comment and subscribe to our channel if you like what you see. Thanks for sticking around with us for so long. Chris, it was nice talking to you, and we will talk again soon.
Yeah, man. Thanks for tuning in, and see you in a couple weeks. Talk about
Yeah.
some winners and losers from preseason.
All right. Sounds good. All
Good
right,
night,
guys.
guys.
Take it easy.
Bye.